Okay, I'm going to gavel in the work session right now. So it is called to order. Roll call.
Susan Skiris.
Here.
Joseph Jones.
Here.
Mike LaFredo.
Yes.
Mike Jones.
Yes.
And Teresa Harms.
Okay, the next item is strategic goal setting sessions, review the goals and objectives. Dennis, do you want to go with this? I know we had some input from Mike Jones. Would you like to comment on where the status of that is at this point?
Well, one thing I want to say, and this is going to sound short and sweet, but it seems that there is some connection between the goals and objectives for the council and Dennis's performance evaluation, and those are not necessarily connected. So if the council wants to discuss Dennis's performance evaluation to be conducted after the first 12 months, then I don't think tonight's discussion has to go very long. I was looking for a council goals and objectives that would be a community vision, something that we could structure the council's budget around. But if it's going to be something that's going to be more mechanical and specifically attached to Dennis's performance, then that's something that we have to work on in the next month or so and put before the council for its approval. So with that, I would just suggest if there's support for the council to move forward on the document that you had before you this evening as it's been amended, and Mike's added some stuff to that as well and asked some good questions about that, then the discussion can continue this evening. But if it's something that's going to be tied to employee performance, my performance evaluation, then I would suggest we not waste any more time on the goals and objectives.
Dennis, I would say department heads as well as yourself are connected to the objectives and goals. I mean,
Let's disagree with you, Counselor, because the department heads' performance evaluations are a subject of my interaction with them. The council has nothing to do with that.
It has to do with achievement of the roles that they're charged with doing.
The city charter does not provide for any supervision or interaction between council and department directors or any city employees. That is a function of the city administrator.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. For example, the public safety director, Chad and Dalton, did performance evaluations on their employees last year, and they did a great job with it. They had criteria established and they had a scale established, and it worked out really well, and objectives were set and reasoning was conducted. And obviously it's related to their jobs, which is a part of the goals. So I don't think no matter how you cut it, it's all related.
Mike, I think what the discussion needs to be is, what do you folks want as the community goals? This other stuff will fall in line after we get the global goals established. So what's on the table, even though we may have objectives and whatever, we have about 8 goals. If anybody's got any comment on those 8 or 9, please speak now. Therese?
Dave, my contention is there's way too many goals. They don't.
Which ones would you like to change?
Well, I submitted to Dennis, and I think you all got copies of it. To me, they revolve around public works, public safety, communication, fiscal responsibility, and I forget what the other one is I have in the communications maybe. So I think those are the roles. Those are the goals, essentially, and I think all of the rest of the objectives can fit underneath those. So that's my feeling. Goals are, why not have 12 of them? but I think they all relate to the different areas that I just mentioned.
Therese?
Sure, Dave, I'm happy to jump in. This is something I've spent a lot of time on, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak to this again. One of the things that I did is here's you can have different opinions about how we approach this or strategies for how it goes into place. I think this is fine. I think it probably, my opinion is that I think that what Mr. Alfredo has said is incorporated, or it's encompassed with everything that's probably on this paper. And so one of the things that I did was look at our past plans. I looked at some of the other cities' plans as well. I've got a binder full of different things. And then I looked at to see what has been, because I know we largely took this based on our past, what are the goals that we've set out for us. And so that's what this document is to do, is to set out the goals so that we can have some direction until we can move forward. And this is a conversation that I had with Dennis as well as a couple of the council members that separately, of course, that this I would like to see us do a more strategic planning session at the right time. So that's still my goal of what I'd like to do. But I support moving this forward in its current state with a couple of changes, if I may, as I've had more time to kind of sort through. And I want to make sure that we're not leaving. And I think these are things that we're already doing. So if we can find a way to build them in somewhere, I would greatly appreciate that. And my apologies for not getting those in writing to anybody beforehand, but the day got busier than I wanted it to be. One of the pieces that I don't know for sure where it goes, if it goes in goal number 5 or if it goes in goal 7, but I think we should have something in there on Walnut Creek stabilization or something to address the creek. It is one of our natural resources. We have a lot of things going on with that, or at least we have in the past. Certainly plays into our flood planning and all those sorts of things. And so if somebody thinks it's already in here somewhere, please do advise me. But I think we need to not lose sight of that piece of our work. So that's a recommendation. I'm open to where it goes, but I'd like it to be somewhere. Second, in goal number 7 and in goal number, hold on, I'm flipping back and forth here. 7B says pursue recreation program partnerships with the schools. In my last comments, I suggested that we add other community organizations like the Y or FIT or whatever. I don't care how that's worded. And I shouldn't say that I don't care. I clearly do care. But if we change maybe objective B to something like expand community recreation options, I know we have that also in 5D. Where we say begin to implement the parks plan. So again, if those are the same or if they're in different places, I'm not sure I care. I just wanted it to be included. But whether that's the schools, the Ys, or other community partners, we also partner with the guy who does or has done the yoga in the past and stuff like that. So we've done a variety of things. I just don't, so I'd like those things to be included there. And then somewhere, and I know this is gonna, we don't have anywhere in our, if it's number 7 probably is where I'd like to see it, that we don't have anything. We talk about the roadways, the utilities, the parks, and the public facilities. Not to stir anybody up anywhere here, that maybe objective A, if we could add sidewalks and trails to that. And the reason that I say that is because we still have our issue here on 73rd Street that we have to find resolution with if we plan to connect to West Des Moines ever. which I think we need to. And so I think that's a trail sidewalk sort of conversation, and that's been a priority, and it's not included in this document that I think it needs to be, whether it's, you know, whatever. It just, we mentioned other things. I'd like that to be mentioned there specific to that. And then number 9, appreciate the addition of the communications plan. And so there's a couple of things that I think we need to talk about here. One, we just passed an agreement on broadband. And so I'm wondering if we need to address broadband somewhere in this space. And I don't know if that's an infrastructure or if that's a communications piece, but broadband probably I'd like to see that there because it needs to be a priority for us, to connectivity for all of our residents. And then the other piece that I'd like to see in the goal 9 area is something about our website. And so whether that's continuous improvement of our website or access to communications with the city or whatever. I know that there's a lot of challenges, not only for me sometimes, but also for residents. I hear regularly that they still are challenged, even though we've done a major renovation to our website, that there still continues to be challenges with that. And I'm wondering if maybe it's even, whether it's website or something else. Again, I'm open to ideas, but creating a comprehensive community outreach plan might be a way to encompass those things. And then that maybe tackles the work of the communications committee. That could be the website, that could be the texting program that we're going to offer, or whatever the case might be with that. And then my last comment is connectivity. And so I don't see anything here on transit either. And so I'm wondering if there's something, we're putting the new DART hubs up and, along University Corridor. We have the new DART hub, at the Sam's Club Walmart parking lot. And we continue to be invested in making sure there's connectivity throughout the metro. And so I'm wondering if there's a goal somewhere that could fit in on connectivity via transit. And those are my comments.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Jones, Mike?
Well, I sent the email to Dennis, which he shared with all of you. I think the only missing thing in there was with regards to flood prevention, flood mitigation in the future. And then the separate issue, I just have some questions about. So Dennis, what is assuming these come through, is there a timeline on when, is this like a checklist? Are these things going to be completed by a certain time frame? Or how long is this? What is the plan for this?
Okay, so the goals and objectives are going to be the roadmap for the budget. So as staff sits down and crafts this spending plan for the council to consider when the draft budget's presented to you, these programs will be outlined in detail at that time. So in this existence, let's take one of Teresa's ideas, and that's a trail issue, develop trails. So if we were to promote a budget item for that, to develop trails in the city of Windsor Heights, then that project detail would come out during the budget discussion process. So you would understand what you're spending your money with regard to trails. The same thing comes on the flip side. If we don't have money or anything that we want to dedicate to trails in this current fiscal year, you will be explained to that as well during the budget process. So for flood mitigation, which you just brought up, Mike, we are currently working on putting together an RFP for getting some type of final report that shows us what are our options with regard to flood mitigation. When those recommendations come forward, they'll give staff an idea of what projects are possible, doable, and even affordable for the council to consider in a budget setting session. And we will then program those for implementation. They might be put into the budget or the CIP for 3 years from now. that doesn't mean that you're not addressing the flood mitigation vision that the council has for your goals and objectives. So to answer your question quickly, this will be, yes, a performance evaluation from the council's perspective, but it also might be a planning document for the council to keep you on track for coming years.
Of course, Dennis, the objectives are not measurable as written. But that's, if it works for you and the staff, who might object to it, but they're not measurable.
Mike, I don't think this document that's its intention. I think that as you start looking out and how you, in the strategic planning process long-term, this is a goals and objectives document to give guidance, but I don't think it's meant to be a, what you're looking for from the, when I put together work plans and stuff like that, that's when I build out what those measurable outcomes are. And that's what I would see, that those things would come as Dennis and the staff are building out kind of the work plans about how you get to this. That's when those measurable outcomes come into play. Dennis, if I'm wrong, you certainly will tell me, but that's how I would envision when we would start seeing where the measurable outcomes are on each one of these.
I think those are the objectives, Therese, for the measurable outcomes.
There are no measurable outcomes here except for what the council does in your budget document. Okay, so if you as a council establish that one of your objectives is to invest in a flood remediation plan during the fiscal year, and I never bring you any information on that during the course of the year, then the council can ask Dennis why he didn't do that, because you set out that guide, that goal, that objective. But if the council then votes no on moving forward on this goal and objective that it is establishing right now, then that's a performance measure on the council for not following through on the vision that it's presented to the community. If you're looking for a way to measure performance by staff, this is not the document. That is going to be an individual document between myself and you as the council, and it's going to be a document between myself and my staff.
Correct.
It's, Dennis, it's not intended to be a performance evaluation. They're just tasks. It's a program evaluation, or it's for the city's benefit to have some accountability on where they are in, if they're going to be worked on, where they are in the process. And if they're not documented, you'll never know. So be that as it may, I'm not going to waste anybody's time. And if it works for you and the staff, who might object? But that's where I am.
Finishing my thought, goal number 1, objective F, says engage neighboring communities as partners in service delivery. Then it says IE and gives a long things that are following, as presumably would be objectives to, that's shared services. Yet I see nothing in there about the police, only fire. Why is that?
This list is there's no rhyme or reason except for the fact that these are already issues that have been discussed prior to my arrival here in Windsor Heights.
Well, the staff has had input into these, I hope, Dennis.
Staff has input into almost everything I do every day.
Well, I mean, what I asked is that they had input into these. And you're right, these have been probably objectives and goals that have continued for quite a while.
Chad and Dalton, you're both on the call right now. Can you verify that you've had contributions to this goals and objectives draft?
I don't need verification from anybody. I have complete trust that they're involved. And so, I mean, you can ask, but if somebody wants that, I don't want it.
Thanks, Mike. Joseph, you got any comments on this?
I don't. I shared with Dennis in conversations about talking about inclusion, that we include people with disabilities in terms of our vision. He knows that. But overall, I see this group of 9 kind of strategic principles to guide our budget and other parts of our overall thinking as a city to be good. I think it's a perfectly great document to get us started, and I agree that there will be a need for us to do more of a real strategic planning workshop at some point. But I think this is great for us to look at the overall big picture for us as a city, and help the city staff to understand where we want to go and give Dennis that guidance. And maybe we just change the words from goals to principles or something, and that might make it easier to look at. But I think that I like the additions that Teresa added. I think it's really important that we make sure we address Walnut Creek and that connectivity to West Des Moines for sure. So hope we can add those in as objectives or some sort of thing to make sure that we don't forget and lose down the road, or whatever successive councils come after us don't lose sight of that being something that needs to get done.
Joseph, and I agree with what you're saying. Is I think this is a work in progress, and it provides Dennis direction and staff direction, then I can accept it, certainly. And because as a new administrator of this city, I think one of our roles is to support his efforts. And you know, and so discussions are fine, and I think we're having that. And there probably, I agree with you, Joseph, that there's probably more to be done in terms of strategic planning. But if this provides some guidance at present, I think it's fine.
It's communication, Mike, and that's what we're trying to get, is for everybody to have input and make their comments relative to this. Susan, have you got any? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
That's pretty obvious.
Susan?
I don't really have anything to add. I believe kind of Dennis and I talked at our get together, and he explained things a little bit better to me so that I understood, since I was kind of confused from our last session. So I was able to kind of hash things out and figure things out. And Dennis explained kind of what he was doing, and kind of made me understand the goals that are here. And I don't have anything further. I think everybody else kind of put everything that I was thinking out there before I talked.
Thank you, Susan. Dennis, you got any follow-on comments?
Only that I appreciate all the comments this evening. I think that we've narrowed it down to where I hope we can get to and get something in front of the council to approve at their next meeting, but also to follow up on the discussion about additional work that has to be done. At the last work session, the council came to a consensus that we wanted to provide for this goals and objectives document, but also that there was a need for a strategic planning session. And we are off and running planning for that in the spring. So the council is going to come together. Maybe it's a full Saturday morning, and they're going to have a consultant that's going to help them get from point A to point B for a vision that the council has for the next 5 to 10 years. And that will be kind of the 35,000 foot look at what Windsor Heights could be.
This is a good start.
Dennis, after these are approved, and the email I sent you is, I agree the CIP needs to be move forward.
Okay. Anybody else got any comments relative to the goals? If not, we'll put this to bed and let Dennis massage it, get back to all of you, and we'll reconvene this at the next opportunity.
Thanks for your work on this, everybody.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Susan Skiris,
Yes.
Joseph Jones,
Yes.
Mike LaFredo,
Yes.
Mike Jones,
Yes.
and Teresa Harms.
Thank you, folks. We made some headway tonight, but look forward to the next one. Thank you. Good night.